Hey, what's going on? What up, 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 what up? What is going on, my people? Welcome back, ladies and men of prestige. Welcome back to all of you. We have a very important topic to cover. We have a special topic to cover today, as usual. We're going to talk about marriage restoration. Marriage restoration is a very important topic. It's something that I have hands-on experience with. Just in case you don't know, I have hands-on experience with this topic, so I'm actually going to be speaking to that a little bit. All right, but nonetheless, we have this young man, gentleman here. He's about my age, so I can't really call him young like that. It's one of the finest actors that Nigeria has to present to the world. The reason why Nigerian movies are all over Amazon Prime, the Netflix, his name is BOLANLE NINALOWO. Call him Nino, something like that. They call him Nino. Right? So we're definitely going to be talking about him. We're going to be reacting to a video that he did with shout out to Chude. So we're definitely going to be reacting within the Fair Use Act, within the guidelines of the Fair Use Act today. So we have a video we're going to cover. It's a very short video. Some of you may have seen the video already, but trust me, there's a lot more to that video than everyone else is making out to be. You know what people did? They just take that clip like, oh yeah, it's nice, cute, right? Whatever, right? But the truth is that there's more to that story, right? Than that you might not be able to unless we unpack it. Okay, so I'm not gonna waste any time on this. We're just gonna dive right into it. I'll make it short and sweet because again, I was watching Pastor Sam Adeyemi today earlier on, and somebody was asking him about how big do you think a church how long do you think a church service should go. I'm not saying we're doing church service here, right? How long do you think a church service should go? The guy was like, you know what? I don't really care for how long a church service should go. The question is that what is the purpose of the service? Hey, just Jay, good to see you. Good to see you. Right? What's the purpose of the service? The purpose, like for every second, I'm paraphrasing now. In that service, there should be a purpose. There shouldn't be prolonged just because of superficial reasons like money or just for watch time, anything like that. We should keep it concise. If we're here and we're engaging, sure, I'll stay longer. If it's not, let's get straight to the point. But we got this video. I'm gonna play it, and then I'm gonna basically dissect it sentence by sentence. I promise you, it's gonna be one of the best things you've ever. Best videos on this platform. All right, so shout out to Nino for giving us this gem so that we can, and shout out to Chude for being an awesome interviewer. So let's get into it.
Heart and everything to the years to restore. See, a lot of people call God for what God has nothing to do with.
TD Jake says God provides trees, doesn't make furniture.
Exactly. So I needed to take time back to see what I had done to her. The years when I was feeling like I was still young and cheating all day, breaking her heart and everything, to the years where, okay, I wasn't there and just pursuing my dreams. But I forgot that this was a human being that was taking records.
Yeah.
And taking experiences of her life as well. So I became somebody that she didn't recognize anymore at some point, and I couldn't even call her to pick up the phone. And the same woman I had so much control over, I had no control over anymore because she outgrew me. You know what I mean? So to get that restored and to achieve that back, I needed to go back and start afresh. Detox and clear everything that I have done and seen. And it's a process, man.
Yeah.
It's a process, and a lot of people keep failing because they keep jumping from one thing to another. You need to take time, sit back and see why you got it wrong. Leave that thing. Take the pain. A lot of people don't want to start because they don't want to be seen starting from the bottom. Go back to the bottom. That's what happened to me. I had to go back to start there, and from there I started to see I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
You
know what I'm saying? But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so let's add some context to that. Let's break it down sentence. You said in my opinion, he said a lifetime worth of a lot in that short clip, but I'm sure it's going way over many people's head. You know, anyway, they would rather, you know, consume other type of content. Nonetheless, marriage restoration is a real thing. As much as people like to only talk about a completely destroying marriage and never coming back from it, as much as that's the reality that you see most of the time, some people actually manage to restore marriages. I'm one of them. And here we are, we have another example, and he's a celebrity. So he has all the forces against him, right? The force of being a superstar, a rock star, a good looking guy, probably a bunch of women who wants to be in his corner, probably, you know, a lot of people that would like to take the place of the wife. Even if they don't really know what the hell they're doing, it just feel good to be Nino's girlfriend or new wife, right? We had examples, much better, maybe a much more toxic example over the past few weeks. We had the Yola Duce, right? And we have people that have handled things in the worst ways, right? But again, we don't know him all the way. But I just want to dissect some of the statements he just made, and I think if I were to bet on it, he knows what the hell he's talking about, and that's what I want to do right about now. Okay, so let's get the first sentence. Let's get into it.
To restore. See, a lot of people call God for what God has nothing to do with.
All right, let's stop there, right? If you don't know, let me just show you this really quickly. By the way, you have access to this, okay? Loveandprestige.com. Okay, loveandprestige.com. You can download the book for free and you have access to coaching as well, okay? So, why? Because this is anything I say from this point on forward is going to be easier said than done. Because emotions, people are caught up in their emotions. One person feels like the one person is doing less, and you know, it's not quote unquote 50-50. It's never going to be that. Neither of the parties are ever going to feel like anything is 50-50. So that makes it even much more difficult because you start to feel like, why am I doing so much and you're not doing enough, right? And it's so easy to get into that space. And the more you stay in that space, the more you're going to destroy the situation. So I just want to show that really quickly. Everything I said off from this point on forward is going to be easier said and done. Let's keep going real quick. Okay, let's first of all dissect what it just said. It said most people, what do they do?
Restore. See, a lot of people call God for what God has nothing to do with.
People call God for what God has nothing to do with. Well, we kind of know that God created all things good and bad. He created everything, right? But in terms of the processes, the principles that guide our relationships, right? The choices that we have power to make choices. The will, right? The fact that you have a willpower, you could like it doesn't matter. You can basically choose how you want to live your life, and it gives you freedom, absolute freedom, to do how you want to do it. There are consequences for your choices, but it gives you freedom, right? That includes what you do with marriage or relationships in general, right? It's not gonna come down and then start fighting fire for you. That's basically what he's saying. He's basically saying that there's work that you need to do. Most people are not going to do the work. What they do, there are two things they do. They either run to God or they run towards their emotions. They let the emotions take over. Okay? But there's work. And the type of work we're talking about is a lot more harder work than you go to work and do in the morning, right? Tangible stuff. We're talking about work of the heart, emotional work, right? Mental work. There's a lot that, why? Because there's a lot going on, because you're not just dealing with yourself now, which is already hard. You're a complex, complicated being. The way you think, sometimes you do stuff that doesn't make any sense, but you do it because it feels right, right? And that's just how complex it is. Why are you engaging in bad habits that you know is going to kill you? God knows. I don't know. We don't know. You don't know. But sometimes it feels right, and that is just the quickest thing to run to when you're in that place of funk, right? But it's complex is the point, right? So this kind of work we're talking about is much more harder than your typical just give me a cutlass and let me, it's or anything like that, or let me clean the floor. No, this is the hardest work you're gonna ever have to do. If you're in a place where marriage is deteriorated, right? Where it's basically shot on the legs, right? For whatever reason, whoever you think whose fault is, it's not gonna be that simple. The more you more you the more you engage judgment, condemnation, blame, guilt, shaming, the harder it gets. The more the closer to impossible is going to be for you to restore that marriage. And guess what the natural thing for you to do is, right? The natural thing for you to do is to point fingers. What is that? Blame. And sometimes you're actually absolutely right. Right? So let's keep going.
TD Jakes says God provides trees, doesn't make furniture.
Exactly. So I needed to take
TD Jakes, I learned a lot from TD Jakes when I was going through that process too. God provides trees, He doesn't provide furniture. So simple, so profound at the same time. Something like right there in your face, but sometimes you just don't. So listen, what do most Nigerians do? They run to church. Am I saying prayer is not important? Prayer is important, but I know majority of the work that prayer is going to do for you is to allow you to stay in that place of peace so that God can process what He needs to process. Like, allow you to stay in that place of peace, faith, so that you can allow God to do His thing, right? But the idea that He's just going to, the prayer itself is what's doing it. No, it's not about knowing how to say the right prayers. Many of you will run to the internet and start downloading prayer for restoration of marriage. There's nothing wrong with those things. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that that's the least of the work you have to do. Because prayer without work is what? Ason? Let's keep going.
time back to see what I had done to her. The years when I was feeling
Let's go back a little bit.
And back to see what I had done to
Make furniture.
Exactly. So I needed to take time back to see what I had done to her. The years when I was feeling like I was still young and cheating all day.
All right, so wait, let's go back a little bit. He said he needed to take the time to see what he had done to her. I guarantee you that there's probably moments where he felt justified. How many of you have done something so wrong and you know you're wrong, but somehow, some way you found in yourself justification? After all, he did this too. After all, she did this too. Well, she's not giving me peace. I don't have peace at home. Well, it's too much. Well, she's not good in the bed and I try to work, and there's more than enough things you can point fingers at outside of self. Right? So for a man to get into a space where he said, I needed to go back and use the words, what I had done to her. Some people will interpret that as don't beat yourself up. Some people literally interpret that as don't beat yourself up. Why are you simping for your woman? They use all kind of languages out there, right? Like, oh, you're just beating yourself up for her. If you're saying things like that, you're missing the point. First of all, you're both in it together and you're just as responsible as much as the other person. And we're not talking about plain equality here. We're saying sometimes you're the only one that will be left to actually have to build that baby back up, right? But that's not fair. Well, what do you want? It comes back down to what do you want? If you want what you want, it becomes fair, right? Because then it becomes a negotiation game, right? Not exactly negotiation, because again, we're talking about somebody that's not necessarily coming to the table to have conversations with you. Somebody that has offended you. As a matter of fact, there's a good chance you are resenting them, but maybe because they're rejecting you at this point in time, you're obsessed with the idea of bringing the marriage back together. So for someone to come to a place, right, to say, I needed to rewind back and see what I had done to her, it takes humility. Humility is, we all got pride, all of us, okay? So it's not the easiest thing to do, especially in a romantic relationship, right? So it takes a lot of work. Then you heard him now, he said it sounds so easy. But what it is that somebody that has done the work on themselves, they've taken the time to work on themselves. Because if we go by natural instincts, the natural thing for him to do would be like, nah, F that lady, man. Nah, I'm just moving on. No, I'm tired. Maybe you've begged enough and you're like, no, I don't want to beg anymore, and you feel tired of begging, right? Well, usually what that is that you're trying to fix the issue from the middle. Remember what he just said. He had to go back. Let's go back a little bit.
The years when I was feeling like I was still young and cheating all day, breaking her heart and everything, to the years where, okay, I wasn't there and just pursuing my dreams. But I forgot that this was a human being that I was taking.
Many of you forget that you're dealing with a human being. Do me a favor. If you're here right now, you're just stepping in, do me a favor. Make sure you hit the like, share button, okay? We're talking, we're having a conversation with BOLANLE NINALOWO. He's giving us this fantastic short video that has so much lessons in it, right? And that's what we're dissecting. So please do me a favor, hit that like button, share and subscribe if you're brand new here, okay? So we can show the algorithm some love. Thank you.
Records.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back just by 30 seconds.
I forgot that this was a human being.
He forgot that this was a human being. Okay, first of all, many people are not even aware. Like, let's start from awareness, okay? When they're in a romantic relationship that has fallen apart, a marriage that has fallen apart, one of the hardest things for you to do, let me take this off so we don't make noise into the. One of the hardest things for you to do is to be simply aware that this person is another human being entirely. That's one of the hardest things to do. Why? Because you're caught up in your feelings. This is just another person who is out here to hurt me. You're not saying it deliberately, but your brain is processing it that way. That's why you're reacting with so much resentment. You're feeling like something is just like he's just out here to hurt you, right? That's what's going on. You're not thinking like this is a human being. You know that for a fact that that's a human being, but you're not taking the time to be aware in that moment like this is a human. Why is it that it's so hard for, hey Lady Navo, good to see you. Why is it so hard for people to listen? Because they're caught up in their own feelings, in their own emotions. They're being human being, right? The only thing they're aware of is that I'm human too. They say I'm human too. No, the two part, they actually is silent. They're actually not paying attention to the fact that they just used two. That means there's another human being. They're just basically full of themselves. On both sides. On both sides. Very, very important to pay attention to. That part, right? So for someone to be able to say, I didn't realize, I don't want to paraphrase too much.
But I forgot that this was a human being that was taking records.
Yeah.
Okay, that last part is very important. I forgot that this was a human being that was taking records. We all take records. What do we translate it? We translate it to resentment. Even when we're wrong, right? We all do it. All of us do it, right? She's taking records. She's not sitting down there and say, some do that, but she's not necessarily sitting down there and say, I'm going to be taking records. No, somebody's having an experience. When you're having an experience, you don't forget. It's actually better than the memory of the experience you have is actually sharper than what you write down. That's when I laugh at people that say, let me take a camera and start recording. Like, no, you're missing out. You're not having the experience. In fact, the other person is having an experience and they will never forget. And the experience they're having is not necessarily the factual thing that's happening. It's not necessarily the things that are transpiring from a physical standpoint. The feelings is part of the experience. The emotions that's happening right now with them is part of the experience. Right? And he's absolutely right. They're taking records, not deliberately. It's just a natural thing to do when you're going through especially toxic, something that comes off as toxic or abusive. Feel me?
Yeah.
And taking experiences of her life as well. So I became somebody that she didn't recognize it anymore at some point, and I couldn't even call her to pick up the phone. And then
So let's unpack that real quick. He traveled, if you listen to the story very well, he traveled from here in Chicago. He was living here, Chicago, something like that, Midwest, something like that. And then traveled back to Nigeria to to basically chase after his dream as an actor. And he actually ended up achieving his dream, becoming one of the finest actors in Nigeria, right? But what happened? I think he left his wife. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong with this one, because I didn't fully listen to that part, right? And when you become a rock star in Nigeria, a good-looking man, you're a rock star, you're on TV all the time. It's not necessarily TV, but if you're on any type of stage or anything like that, right? That's attractive. Okay? People just want to be a part of good things in general. So what does that bring? It brings temptations, right? When you had that together with the fact that you're a young man, right? That you're in a young marriage, right? All bets are off. Okay? Was he wrong? I keep telling you, was he wrong? Yes, he was wrong. But that's the least of the problem. The biggest of these issues is that there's a marriage and there are kids involved, right? And the whole marriage is basically falling apart. And today, what do we have? We have people coming out and basically talking about marriage falling apart is it's not do or die. You're right, it's not do or die, but there's more to it. There's more to that story. Like, should we just say it's not do and die and shut up right there and just that's it? No. You're destroying society. We got to pay attention to that part. While you're right, there's more to it. Right? No, we're not going to come out of a marriage and just say, no, it was successful anyway. He ended the way he ended. No, it's not that simple. No, absolutely not. There's more to it, and we need to unpack all of it, because if you don't do that, it's no wonder why 75% of second marriages end up back in divorce. 75%, somewhere around that. Much more than the first marriages. Right? So the talking points are they're raging, they're going crazy. Everybody is basically justifying BS. But thank goodness for people like BOLANLE that are still coming out to say, you know what? Nah, fuck that. I want to bring my family back together. And it's possible. And it doesn't matter how much damage is, because that's not what it's. I'm going to give you some tips here today in terms of restoration, right? In addition to the tips he's given us. Because he's given us a ton already, right? He already said you have to go back to the beginning. Go all the way back, right? Humility. Taking accountability. It doesn't matter what side you're on. You could have been the victim, but right now, you were the victim. Take responsibility. Take accountability of yourself. Be accountable, right? That doesn't mean you blame yourself. Remember what I said earlier? Shame, guilt, blame, condemnation, judgment, all those things will work against you. Because those things will make you either resent yourself or resent the other person. The product of that is not good. Let's keep going.
the same woman I had so much control over, I had no control over anymore because she outgrew me.
She outgrew him. A lot of men, when they hear that, they're like, what the hell is that? People will hear irreconcilable difference, they're very quick to say, men will hear irreconcilable difference, they're very quick to make fun of irreconcilable differences. Irreconcilable differences simply means, it simply means the courts don't have time for your bullshit. Okay, there's no real reason. Let's just write it down. We're separating after the story. You keep going back and forth. Oh, he was guilty here, he was guilty over there. You were wrong right here, but that time you were wrong. It's so much layers to it. The court don't have time for you. You can't pay them enough for that bullshit. Okay, we're just gonna write irreconcilable differences. That's what that means. You don't get to make fun of that and think you're going to fix the family and community. You're missing the point completely. So a woman will come to you and say they use languages like they outgrew you or they lost themselves, and you don't take the time to really dig in and find out what that means. Is that somebody was not paying attention. And the more of those type of stories we have, the more we destroy society. Because at the end of the day, the family structure is the cornerstone of society. And stop the cap. Marriage has been a fantastic way to put some structure around that. I don't care if you're signing papers with the state, whatever. Bottom line is that the family structure, even before the state was what the state was the cornerstone of society, right? So the more we have all these talking points that don't really get to the bottom line, the more we destroy. But the reason why I'm showcasing this today is I want you to know that it's possible to literally to repair, to restore. Literally, I don't care how much damages has been. What it takes is self-control, emotional control, and that's the hardest things for human beings to engage. And that's the problem that we're having. People are having a hard time humbling themselves and say, you know what? Do you think she was never wrong? But why is it speaking the way it speaks? Right? Why is it speaking the way it speaks? It's because there's a reward system that follows that. When you focus on just your own part, being accountable to yourself, taking responsibility for the roles that you play, even if all you did was just come into that relationship, even if that's all you did wrong, that still carries a lot of weight. Let's keep going.
You know what I mean? So to get that restored and to achieve that back, I needed to go back and start afresh. Detox.
If there's been damages in a marriage, you have to destroy it all the way back to the foundation. The reason why most marriage foundation, let me tell you right now, I'm saying most because I'm being nice to this talking point I'm about to make. Okay, really, what I want to say is 100%. Okay, so let's just safely say most marriages have terrible foundation. Okay, why? Because you don't know what you don't know. You can't comprehend what you're about to get into. So even if you went to premarital counseling and all this kind of stuff, a lot of stuff they're sharing with you, you can't comprehend it. Naturally so. You don't know what you don't know, right? So most marriages starts off of the wrong foundation entirely. So how much more when you've, even in addition to that, offended, betrayed the other person, right? Betrayal is not always infidelity only. Sometimes it's just the fact that Kiriwa didn't happen often enough. Okay? Sometimes it's just something as simple as you don't let me finish when I'm talking. Sometimes it's just as simple as you tend to have a tendency to want to engage. Excuse me. You have a tendency to want to engage toxic arguments all the time. For every time you do that, somebody is storing, they're taking records, like you said, and the records is not necessarily factual stuff. It's just how they feel. They're taking those records based off how they feel. So by default, you're already offensive, just by your very idea of you're an innocent person. We didn't know anything about life. You had no experience, and you go into a marriage. See, when you understand it that way, it's easier for you to, number one, forgive yourself. When you're able to forgive yourself, you can forgive another person. If you have a hard time forgiving yourself, you will have a hard time forgiving other people. Well, if you resent yourself, you will resent other people. Okay? Let's keep going.
And clear everything that I have done and seen. And you know,
All right, before he goes into that statement he's about to make, to clean everything, to clear everything. We're talking about emotional issues. Do you know how hard that is? Let me just be honest with you right now. For most people, if you don't hit rock bottom, you can't clear jack. You're not gonna clear jack. At least one of the parties will hit rock bottom. Okay? Where it's like it's a wrap, it's over. If you don't, guess what happens? If at least one of them, I'm about to say preferably, but both of them, for the most part, okay? If both of them, okay, one of them is possible is if one person still feel like they can do without you, right? If one person still feel like there's something out there on the street for them, right? Then what are they gonna do? This is what they're gonna do. Number 4, pride. Okay, pride is gonna take over, right? And that's one of the 4 forces that you have to either pull or push against, that I keep sharing with you from time to time here, right? Pride will basically to enough. All you need is a little bit of pride like a mustard seed, and then you won't be in that space where you're able to restore a marriage. Pride would destroy everything in its path. Okay, even the least of it. So when you hit rock bottom, you have zero pride. At that point in time, you've lost self-worth, self-esteem, right? That self that grandiose thing is gone. And there's a good chance somebody has tested the street and realized that there's nothing out there on the street. He said it earlier, it was out there in the street. He was for the streets, right? That's the only time that a person is able to come back and humble themselves. Now, everyone's rock bottom is different. Everyone's rock bottom is different, right? Some people, all they need is, again, like I keep saying, no career for 2 days and they will catch sense. Some people need to almost lose their family. It sounds like that's what almost happened to him. Because it said this lady lost respect for him completely. He was not able to have her under control anymore. She did not respect him anymore. And sometimes that's the rock bottom for men. All right. Some men, they can't feel that. Like you lost respect for them, and would that help? They will have to lose their livelihood, their money, or something. They lost it all. I mean, there are a lot of people like that. And that's why it's too late for many people. Right? But rock bottom, if you can comprehend what would rock bottom look like for you? Right? What would rock bottom look like for you if you're in this place that there's still a little bit of pride in you and you're like, I don't want to work on it. He's full of it or she's full of it. I'm okay. I'm done with it. And you think that, and you should feel like there are options. There are times that I tell you there are options. If they feel like they're done, you should be done too. By the way, you should not be negotiating desire. But I'm saying if you're the one that has the pride in this equation, right? Just imagine what would that world look like for you if you lost the most precious, the most valuable thing to you. What is that thing? Maybe it's not your wife. Maybe you're in that space that you don't feel like it's your wife or your husband, right? Right now, your girlfriends are talking to you, so you feel like there may be better choices out there anyway. All those guys in your WhatsApp group, they're telling you how fine you are, all of them. Somehow you're making that up to be some kind of opportunity, realistic opportunity, right? So you're full of maybe you can, right? So now in this point in time, imagine what it will feel like. Whatever you think is the most valuable thing to you, what is that thing? If you can't imagine that thing yet again, it's no wonder why the pride is still there and you don't feel the need to work on your relationship. Let's keep going. Or you're still using languages like, nah, she's what, like you're talking about your ex and you just have to talk about them in negative light because all you remember is the negative experience, right? If you're still in that space, you haven't learned anything too. Let's keep going.
It's a process, man.
It's a process. It's a process. Anything I said, I warned you in the beginning about 35 minutes ago. Anything I'm saying is easier said than done because pride is such a powerful thing. That's why it destroys lives, like a whole family, right? All you need is pride on one side. That's all you need. It will destroy everything, right? Now, I do want you to know that there are options out there for you. If it's a situation that's beyond your control, like this person doesn't want you. Of course, there are options. I need you to have that self-confidence, right? Because if you don't have it, that's probably the reason why they're taking you for granted, right? But if you're the one you're looking at the other side, it seems like grass is greener on the other side. Don't wait until it's too late. This guy just happened to be a fortunate guy. He worked on it. Don't get me wrong. There's two things can be true at the same time. You can work on it, be in a place where you can work on it, because some people, they have the opportunity, they won't work on it, right? And then I'll call them unlucky later on. You can be lucky at the same time. It's actually because you did the work. Okay? Let's keep going.
It's a process. And a lot of people keep failing because they keep jumping from one thing to another.
All right. The grass is greener on the other side. The grass is not greener on the other side. Grass may seem greener on the other side. It's because somebody is watering it. Or it's fake, right? You know what they call fake love, right? Maybe it's just synthetic grass, right? That means there's no life in it. That means it's going to wear out. even faster, right? When something is organic and natural, they literally last forever. All right. But synthetic stuff may feel like, oh, you don't have to wash, you don't have to do too much work, but guess what? They're wearing out. Okay. But especially when we're talking about the experience of love and a family structure, a healthy marriage, if that's what we're talking about, you absolutely want it to be organic, right? You want it to be organic. And a guy of his status, if he gets with a young lady right now, he's 40 years old, he said, 42, right? As a 42-year-old young man, he can get an 18-year-old fine ass girl if he wants. He can get a 20-year-old if he wants. If he wants, he can, don't let me say the rest because that's Nigeria. They can even go lower, right? But why is he choosing to stay with his wife? Why did he choose to go do the work? Why did he choose to go do the amount of work that it takes a man to come to a place and say, you know what? I didn't realize that this was another human being. That sounds simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy to be in a romantic, emotional context and remember that this is another emotional human being who is taking records of their terrible experience of being maltreated, of being betrayed over and over, right? What would take him, a guy of his caliber, he really didn't have to do that. He could just be completely prideful, arrogant, and say, what, I'll take care of my kids. I'll take care of her for as long as she needs. Let me just face my mission. What is it that he knows that a bunch of other lame people in this generation don't know? Maybe there's something, right? Maybe there's something. We're talking about marriage restoration, don't forget. Restoring a marriage. Okay? Where's the fine line where you humble yourself or you become a doormat? Because that's very important, right? I don't want you to be a doormat. I don't want you to stay in a situation where you're continually being, taken advantage of. That's never what I'm asking you to do, okay? As a matter of fact, if you think that's what I'm asking you to do, that may be the reason why they're taking advantage of you. What I'm asking you to do is, let's make sure that you're not operating from a place of pride. Okay? Pride for him would be, I could get away with it. I'm a rock star. Pride for him would be, let me come on this interview and just talk about my movies. And act like everything is kiki and like, them Studio 4s, right? He could do that. He could get away with it in Nigeria. Right? That will be pride. So I'm giving him credit because it takes a lot of work to get into that space to say I'm going to humble myself. Not only that, I'm going to respect the fact that this is going to be a process. Why is it important to note that this is a process? So you finally figure that, okay, I've been offending my wife. I've been mean to her. I've been using the wrong words, right? I haven't been nice to my husband, As a matter of fact, I've been not in the mood all the time, and I pretended like this is not a human being who needs intimacy in a marriage. Like that's not what they subscribe to, right? To just be celibate, to become an incel in their own marriage, right? Yeah, I haven't paid attention to that, right? But I'm going to ask for forgiveness right now. And I'm expecting them to forgive me immediately. Number 3, expectations. Right? Now, after all, I've apologized. You should be able to forgive me. What did he say? That's a process.
I had no control over anymore because she outgrew me. You know what I mean? So
a typical man, I find, in this generation, they can't use that language. It outgrew me. They don't even know what that means. So that tells me that he knows what the hell he's talking about. For some people, be like, what does that mean? It's duty and responsibility. You shouldn't be able to outgrow people. Yeah. We're talking about human beings. They do outgrow each other. Especially if they feel like they're being taken for granted. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to start to feel like maybe the grass is greener on the other side. Could the grass be greener on the other side? Yes. Okay? Maybe they won't have to do so much mental gymnastics in order to have just a simple, happy life. Right?
To get that restored and to achieve that back, I needed to go back and start fresh. Detox and clear everything that I have done and seen. And you know, it's a process, man.
It's a process. If you're in a position where you ask for forgiveness, you're always being tested. Now you're being tested for your level of pride. Because if you're expecting them to forgive you right away, that's prideful behavior. Okay? By the way, there's a good chance they will never be able to forgive you. And you need to be okay with that. The more you're okay with that, the higher your chances of restoring your marriage. Did you pay attention to what I just said? Let me repeat that. It's a process. Why? Because there are emotions involved. If you've betrayed a person in the past, it's a process to get them back to a place of restoration. It starts by clearing yourself first. It's not about going there and kneeling down and begging because you're trying to manipulate them into forgiveness instantly. That's not going to work. You can ask for forgiveness, but you need to say it one time, at most 2 times, and get back to working on yourself. Give them space to process what just happened because they're probably confused as hell. Understand it's a process. Put all that work into yourself. The majority of the work you need to do is in yourself. The apology is the easiest part. Anybody, I keep telling you, apologies destroy more than they actually build anything. Okay? Sometimes it's necessary. I apologize for the way I've treated you, especially when they can acknowledge the apology is the time that is useful. A lot of people are offering unsolicited apologies. She's very angry with you and she doesn't want apology, right? So sometimes you need to observe and chill and come home and relax and say, hey, how can I help? Say things like that before. You know what? Make sure they're in the place where they can receive you first. Make sure that you're about to sow seed on a fertile soil first, right? And then you can say it once in a way that's clear with no buts. And if you hadn't done this, maybe there's no maybes. I apologize for playing the part I played in the deterioration of our marriage. I am working on myself. Let me know when you're ready to work on the marriage. And back the F off. Why? Because you understand it's a process.
It's a process, man.
Yeah.
It's a process. And a lot of people keep failing because they keep jumping from one thing to another. You need to take time, sit back and see why you got it wrong.
So they said, don't apologize to me. What do? Again, he can easily have as many side chicks as he wants with people that won't bother him at all, people that know how to play their role. So they must have comprehended a certain level of value to his family for him to say, you know what, I'm humbling myself. I'm going to be patient with the process, whatever the process is, because everyone is different from people to people. It's going to be a process, right? It takes time. It takes a lot of emotional energy, right? For a person to suddenly have to forget all the hurt that they felt, not necessarily the hurt you did to them, but they felt. Because it's not just the fact that you're moving a certain way or behaving a certain way, it's a function of your behavior plus all these other things that's going on. Does that make sense? So this is very important for you to. When I say when he says it's a process, it's not to be taken lightly. It's a process that will test your patience because you're gonna get into a place and their mother-in-law or your mother-in-law or some sister somewhere is gonna be like, "Oh Tito, we've been begging you. That's enough." They're going to say shit like that. The more they say stuff like that, I don't want to curse here anymore because I want the videos to stay clean, right? The more they say things like that, the harder it is to get to the process. The higher the chances that that marriage will not be restored. That's why you have to be careful with bringing family members that don't have wisdom, that all they have is common sense. Common sense is a terrible guide to relationship. I'm telling you right now, you can take that to the bank. Common sense is a terrible guide to relationships. Okay? It's not as simple as, that's common sense now. After all, we have begged you. For the past 3 months, we have been begging you. You should be able to accept it right now. No, this type of patience, if you can't wait for it, I think it's better off that you move on. But I'm telling you, a person that actually waited through that process, there's probably some kind of value that they were able to comprehend and they were willing to wait for it. If you don't, if you can't process it that way, maybe you're better off moving on. After all, you won't be the only one. You won't be the only one with the second, third marriage with 75% divorce rate. It won't be new to you. It won't hurt as much either. But I'm telling you right now, people that keep their home together, they have their reasons. They have their reasons. It could be legacy. It could be, there's really nothing out in the streets, especially if you have something that you can work on, right? You, in that same breath, there are options. Don't allow yourself to be taken for granted, right? Don't do that. The more you don't allow yourself to be taken for granted, the higher your chances of restoring your marriage. If you're on the receiving end of a person who is taking you for granted, you don't have to stay in a toxic situation. The longer you stay with the wrong person, the farther you stay away from the right people, right? And sometimes all they need you to showcase is that you're self-sustainable, for them to now want to work on the marriage. Do you see the difference? I just said two different things, but they're two different people. There's one person taking one person for granted. There's one person that knows they've been taking the other person for granted. If you're the one that's been taking one person for granted, there's nothing out in the street for you. Okay? Because if you mishandle this one, there's a good chance you're going to mishandle the other ones. You won't have even as much patience, and the other people won't have as much patience for you, especially in this time and age. But if you're on the receiving end, right? As long as you assess this properly, you make sure you're not operating from number 4, pride. Some of you will say, I'm on the receiving end, and it's just pride. It's just pride that you have. Okay? It's pride, and number 3, you have unrealistic expectations of human beings. Okay? I'm being honest with you. So sometimes it's hard, and you need to unpack your own particular story to know if am I being taken for granted or I have unrealistic expectations, right? Am I prideful, or no, this person can do a better job on how they treat me? So it's not simple, right? Actually, it is simple, but it's not easy, right? It is simple because, again, what I just said is very simple. If you're being taken for granted, it's no wonder why they keep taking you for granted, because they're getting some kind of value from that behavior, right? If you're the one taking another person for granted, don't wait until you hit rock bottom before you get rid of number 4, pride. Because I'm telling you, there's going to be one day is coming that thing you're taking for granted right now is going to be all that you've got left. And it's an active marketplace out here. That's why there's nothing in the streets. There's an active marketplace out here. That person you're taking for granted will scoop up the market in no time. If they can just find themselves as soon as possible and realize that they don't have to be treated that way. Okay? So, again, shout out to Chude and Nino for this video.
Leave that thing. Take the pain. A lot of people don't want to start because they don't want to be seen starting from the bottom. Go.
You don't want to be seen starting from the bottom. That's the pride thing, right? What does it matter what people are seeing? If you've identified the value that you're looking for, like you know what the price is, and you set your eyes on it, and you keep working at it, what does it matter, right?
Back to the bottom. That's what happened to me. I had to go back to start there, and from there I started to see I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. You know,
it could be one of those moments where you lost a lot of money. Said money, where you lost a lot of money in a movie, and it's like, what am I doing? I've lost all this money. My wife is not talking. I feel like shit, right? Again, if you don't hit rock bottom, sometimes it's hard to get rid of number 4. Okay? Sometimes in order for you to realize that you have unrealistic expectations, you have to have failed. You failed over and over, and you're like, okay, even me that I think I'm perfect, look at me all over the place. I'm messy, right?
I'm saying, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah. When I first came into Nigeria,
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. So yeah, that's the lesson that Nino brought to us today. I thought it was a profound one. Hopefully, you got some tips out of that. If you're in a situation or you know someone that's in a situation, marriage restoration is number one. Is possible. Okay, that's the first thing I want you to know. It's very possible. It's going to take a lot of energy on your part, emotional energy. So your ability to be right is basically going to work against you, literally. Okay. The more you think you're right, the more it's going to work against you. So a lot of humility, just assuming that maybe there's something you don't know. That's going to be your biggest strength when you're trying to restore marriage. Maybe there's something I didn't know. I'm not saying you're always wrong. It's got to be because you're wrong. No, we don't know that. Remember, let's go back to what I just said. Maybe there's something you don't know, right? It's not right or wrong. It's not ones and zero. It's not binary in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Maybe there's something you don't know. You're looking for some kind of insights. Maybe there's something you don't know. And that's usually the problem. The problem with marriage restoration is pride and unrealistic expectations, but pride. That pride, all it takes is coming from one side. If somebody is prideful and it's very clear they're prideful and you've done the work and somebody has helped you identify that this person is prideful, they will continue to take advantage of you because people just don't change just because they want to change. They change when they hit rock bottom. And sometimes if you don't remove yourself, they don't feel what that is. I'm not asking you to leave your situation. I'm telling you, engage proper counsel, okay, and identify maybe it's because you're staying. Maybe that's why they keep treating you that way. They're mimicking your level of self-respect. They're mimicking your level of self-love, okay? So that's the solution right there. Make sure that you're not the one that's being prideful, and make sure that you're not enabling prideful behavior, okay? So what if I remove myself and my marriage ends? Let me ask you that question. What if? Do you think maybe the marriage already ended and you're just holding on to nothing? Right? Remember what he said. It has to crumble. You have to break it all the way down to the foundation. You have to go back all the way. Break it down. Most marriages, because I'm being nice, I say most. I actually mean 100%. Starts on the wrong foundation, regardless of how much premarital counsel you go through. Okay? The foundation is just not good enough to carry it. You're going to have to build another one at about 2 years or more. Somewhere in between, you're going to have to build another foundation that will sustain it through a lifetime. And that's what it sounds like he's done. Okay. I'm speaking from experience. If you want my full story, you can go to loveandprestige.com. Okay. Our full story is in there. I'm speaking from experience. Okay. I'm speaking from it. She's filed for divorce. It's done. We had to go back and pull the paper from the courthouse. Okay. So if you want to know that story and how we did and how we went through it, the book is fun. It's more than enough. It's helped a lot of people. Okay. So go get the book for free, and yeah, that's let me just make sure that we're covering everything here. Shout out to Nino for this story because this is very rare. What do you have? Most people come out and say, oh yeah, we're not together anymore. Oh yeah, they're dragging themselves in the public. Oh yeah, we're just doing it for clout. That's mostly what you're gonna get from celebrities and stuff like that. That's all you're gonna get from them. So yeah, don't waste time, because if you're wasting time and you think like you still got time, that's also another level of pride. Be very, very careful with that. So let me do some quick shout out before we leave. Shout out to all the new people that came around today. Okay, and shout out to Auntie B for shouting us out today earlier on. Jojo, shout out to you. Shinye, welcome. You came late. I saw you when you came in. Lady Navo, shout out to you. Just Jay. And if you're listening to me right now, either as a replay gang or anything like that, do me a favor. Make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe. We're still working. We have work to do on this platform. As you can see, people are going to sleep, but we will keep working. So your support is highly appreciated. For every second you're here, Chinye, your support is highly appreciated. So do me a favor, grab the link to this video. I will keep doing masterclasses like this, 1 hour solid, and then we'll keep making the most out of it, because I'm usually tired at this time of the day too. So I want to keep it like that. Tomorrow we're coming back. We have a series this week. So go to the homepage and go take a look. You don't want to miss any one of those. Okay, so set the reminder, turn them on, turn the bell, all that kind of stuff on, and let's make the most out of what we got going on here. So hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.